We've got 8 games in all for you, and we start with the league leaders Manchester City, who took their 100% winning record to Arsenal.
Oh, mistake by Lehmann!
The Gunners' season began with a bit of false footwork from Jens Lehmann. Thanks to a late winner, it wasn't too costly, but he handed a goal to Blackburn and 2 points slipped through his fingers. Manchester City, meanwhile, have had the perfect start. 3 wins, no goals conceded, and a triumph over the neighbours. The commentator was John Motson.
It's been a different sort of week to the one he would once have had. Sven-Göran Eriksson, who took England to 3 consecutive quarter-finals, has guided Manchester City to 3 consecutive victories, their best start since 1991. City, the 5th different club Eriksson has managed against Arsenal. And his opposite number there, Arsene Wenger, will have been with the club for 12 years when his contract runs out at the end of the season. There's talk now of him agreeing a new one soon. An Achilles injury, Jens Lehmann, aggravated at Wembley, has saved Wenger a difficult decision. Goalkeeper's out for 3 games, so Manuel Almunia takes over. Philippe Senderos was to have replaced the injured William Gallas, but he hurt an ankle in the warm-up, so Gilberto plays his first game of the season in the back 4. 2 changes from the City side that started the Manchester derby. Stephen Ireland is fit to return on the right. He replaces Giovanni. And now that Valery Bogdanov is ruled out until the new year with cruciate ligament damage, Emil Mapenza partners Elano up front. Now Adebayor with Richards, Fabregas. Oh, Van Persie! You really have the feeling that he's going to have quite a season. Scored 13 goals by January last time, but then the metatarsal, when he scored the winner against Manchester United, kept him out for the rest of the season. Clichy. Oh, Rosicky again. There are 3 waiting in the middle for Arsenal. 4 now. Adebayor is up with Van Persie as well. Flamini to have the shot, and it comes out to Petrov. Oh, and this is Michael Johnson, and what a break here. Down the centre, and Petrov again. That was a very smart counter-attack by Manchester City. Good effort. Well, it's not been the best of days for Arsenal defenders. Off comes Bakary Sagna, and Danielson is pressed into service now. Arsene Wenger's not having the best of luck with defenders today, is he? This is Giovanni. Oh, Elano, and they're 3 against 1 here, Manchester City, and they should have done better than that. Elano had 3 options. All of a sudden, there were 3 City players to 1 Arsenal defender. Adebayor, Fabregas, Van Persie! Good build-up by Arsenal here, it was slick. And Van Persie's coming in on the far post, but as he stretches, he doesn't make contact. That's loose. Armin Chorluka. Johnson. Petrov coming in. Oh, it was Elano who laid it onto him. And 1 or 2 chances have come the way of Petrov, but his shooting has been somewhat off-key. That didn't miss by a lot, in fairness, and it wasn't the greatest angle either. In fact, it's probably as close as City have come. Garrido. Johnson. Tries to play a 1-2 with Elano. And goes down, and the City supporters and Johnson think there was a case there for a penalty. It was Touré on Johnson. Now, if that had happened to the home side, I think there would have been an even bigger shout. This is Petrov. Onside, Chorluka. Now then, Mpenza, and he's onside as well, and Almunia comes right out. And his decision is vindicated. They stayed onside here, and Mpenza had the run on the defenders. Good goalkeeping. 60,114 spectators inside the Emirates, but they haven't seen a goal. This is Rosicky for Arsenal. Oh, and there's a run on here for Kleb. Oh, is that a penalty? Yes, the assistant referee puts his flag across his chest to signal penalty. It's Alexander Kleb here. Micah Richards stretching. Did he get a bit of the ball? He says yes. Referee says no. Kleb went down. Penalty to Arsenal. And I have to say, from here, it looks as though it was the correct decision. Stadium expectant. Oh, and Schmeichel saves. Robin van Persie with his left foot. Well, he saved it with his feet, actually, as he dived across his goal, Schmeichel. Good play by Kleb. This is Fabregas. That's his shot. Schmeichel plays safe and turns it over. It swerved, didn't it? You could tell that from his gesture. Rosicky. Fabregas. Kleb outside him. And it's Fabregas again. Oh, at last! What a good shot by Fabregas. And it brings to an end a really frustrating afternoon for Arsenal. And Manchester City have conceded a goal for the first time this season. Kasper Schmeichel beaten by the sheer power of the shot from Cesc Fabregas. Just picking it up inside the area and firing very early there. Before either defender or goalkeeper can react, it's Kleb who supplies the pass. But Micah Richards was in front of him, and Fabregas managed to pick out the far corner inside the near post of Schmeichel's goal. Well, the unbeaten record seems to be about to be expunged. Eduardo. Outside him is Rosicky. He's up against Chorluka. And he beats him, and Schmeichel turns it aside. Here's Kleb. Oh, close. Rosicky goes inside Chorluka. Schmeichel there again. And then Kleb just wide. Harman. Garrido. Giovanni! There was a touch on that. It's a corner to Manchester City, and the goalkeeper Schmeichel is coming up. And Schmeichel's got a touch on it, I think. Saved by Almunia. Goodness me, Peter Schmeichel, his father, did that once and scored. Yes, it is the goalkeeper's header. What a story that would have been.
I thought always we would score a goal, but Man City is a good team, and we had today, I think, a very, very good performance.
I think it was a good match. I think Arsenal, of course, playing good football, but I think we did it as well. And of course, I'm disappointed that we lost. We created some good opportunities. We created more today than we did last weekend against Manchester United.
So far, so good, would you say?
Yes, because we look solid, we look strong, and we look mentally very, very focused, and that's good signs.
A lot of people are getting excited about young Schmeichel. What a fine display today.
He's been doing fantastically for us, Schmeichel. So in this moment, we are not interested in any other goalkeeper.
Kasper, at the end, so desperate were you to pull something out of the game, you appeared in the opposition's box and very nearly caused a sensation.
Well, you know, I'll do anything to win. You know, I want to win or at least get a draw. But I'm not really sure if it was me that headed it or someone behind me. But I was in the mix of that. You know, if it causes a bit of confusion, you know, for their defence, you know, it's paid off. But fortunately, you know, it didn't today.
Maybe you should have scored, do you think?
Yeah, it was a bad header.
He's certainly doing his job at the other end, though. It looked like for being one of those frustrating Arsenal performances for a long time, but eventually they got the goal.
They got there in the end. I have to say Man City made it very difficult for them. They defended very well with Dunn and Richards again, fabulous at the back, and young Schmeichel there was fantastic in goal and went up the other end and nearly scored. But Arsenal, as Arsene said, I think they were quite solid. Played some great stuff to get into the final third, but once they got into the final third, they were so wasteful, and their decision making at times was really poor, and it could cost them. Just have a look at it here. It's a great ball over the top into Adebayor. Just watch his first touch here. Watch what he does. He knocks it back into Fabregas. I don't know why he can't take a first touch there and go on to goal. It really is, for me, that's a poor decision. Come on to the next one here. It's going to be Van Persie. He gets there. He decides to shoot this time instead of passing. Look at Rosicky out there screaming for you. You can see his reaction. Again, a bad decision. And this is where I think they were so wasteful here. Again, they get into a great position. Ball across the... Could he just pull it back there into Fabregas running on for a little tap into goal? Again, as a centre forward, Adebayor is in the middle. The ball could come across early, but no, he delays it and delays it. And again, it gives City time to get players behind the ball and clear it. And I mean, it could have been and should have been, really, if Arsenal's finishing was up to scratch. It should have been 4 or 5.
Yeah, we heard from Master Schmeichel, and he had another terrific game, including a penalty save, of course, although there's a hint that it perhaps should have been retaken.
I think Arsene might have had something to say if they hadn't have won this game with this decision. Just have a look at the linesman, or the assistant referee, as we should call him. Does he? Oh, he puts his flag up across his chest. Does a Schmeichel come off the line 3 or 4 yards, and the referee chooses not to give it.
Can this Arsenal side compete for the title without Henry?
I'm not so sure. I think it might be a little bit too early. I think give them another year or two. But I think they have to. I mean, how many times we actually said it last year, didn't we? That they sometimes try to run the ball into the goal instead of having shots on target.
Well,
Those games, you just in the 2 home games, including Fulham, they drew last year. So the portents are good for them at the moment because they're obviously winning them. But I think the problem is going to be against the other top teams, Chelsea and Manchester United and Liverpool, in terms of scoring goals for me.
Okay. Goal of the month next week. Before we go, a look at the Barclays Premier League table. Chelsea are top for the first time in 11 months after beating Portsmouth. They've replaced Manchester City, who lost their 100% record at Arsenal. Then come Wigan and Liverpool. Here's a very rare sight. Manchester United in the relegation zone. Of course, they'll move into the top half if they beat Tottenham at Old Trafford. But for now, Derby fans can say they're just a place below the defending champions.
Easy to be coaxed into the comfort zone by the first leg scoreline. Here is Walcott looking to add to it, and there is Rosicky biting the hand that first fed him in football. A goal of much personal meaning for the boy from Prague and for Arsenal. Rosicky. Eduardo peeling off wide left. And delivering for Van Persie, who couldn't quite lever it back. Bushek. Horvat. It's a decent try. It's a very decent left foot, Pavel Horvat. And now a problem for Almunia, who's been defeated at his near post by a deft lift from Rezek. Eduardo's made a mug of Postberg, and Fabregas has scored. A smile on Arsenal's collective face. A particular smile on that of Cesc Fabregas, who's been central to this tie. And comfortable passage through to the group stage of the Champions League. Adebayor. To Nielsen. Oh. And that's filtered. And Eduardo, who scored on this ground against Arsenal in Europe a year ago, breaks his Arsenal duck in Europe with a full stretch finish to make it 5 overall.
I think Arsene's been quite vocal in the fact he's saying he doesn't want the rubles and he needs the club to be self-sufficient. I think that in an ideal world is the way to go. He always, not criticise is probably too strong a word, but he always was aware of Chelsea's investment from foreign influence and tried to stay away from that by building the academy up. That's not to say that Chelsea haven't got a good academy as well, but he doesn't think it's long-term good for the game. Now, this businessman has said it's not a political or strategic move, it's a pure business move. So he's already said what his intentions are. I think David Dein, it was only a matter of time before he made a move, and I saw him last week and he spoke of, he didn't tell me that they were actually going to sell his shares last week, otherwise he was at the restaurant, I would have put some on his bill and pushed his price up a bit. But he's actually made the move now, and he's in a position where once the year's up that the fellow directors are not selling their shares, once that year's elapsed, I think you'll see a huge move from David, and he will get control of the club, I'm pretty sure about that.
Yeah.
It's an investor. What's happened, to break it down, is that David's cashed in his chips. That's what he's done. It's a price that he wasn't going to ignore. He does want to play an active role again in Arsenal. But nothing can happen, Jeff, until next April, because the current board members, you've got to remember, a lot of the current board members, and I can understand their stance, but a lot of them don't have that many shares. Dan Fizman, I think, is the one with about 24%, and there's quite a group of the others. Now, I think the current board, between them all, have got something like 45%, so it's irrelevant. If they don't want to sell, if there's an offer of 5 billion comes in, they can propose it to the shareholders, but they predominantly have enough shares, so the sale will never take part. It depends.
But they say that everybody's got their price.
Well, of course.
Aren't Arsenal just going the same way as so many other clubs?
Well, I can't answer that. Only the current board members will be able to answer that come next April if they decide to sell, Jeff. That's what it will come down to. I've got a feeling that what's progressing here is that David Dein is sold up, made a fortune. He's a clever businessman. He's taken his fortune. Yes, he represents this red and white club involved with the Russian tycoon. But I think what will happen is that next April will come very quickly, and then they'll be tested, the current board. What are you prepared to do? Here's an offer coming in. Are you prepared to accept it? Yes or no? And they will still control that situation. Now, I think the figures are out at the end of this month, and I'm led to believe that Arsenal figures will be up there with Real Madrid and Manchester United because of the new stadium. I think it's roughly about between 2 and 3 million every home game extra from what they earned at Highbury. And the selling package that Wenger's brought into the football club is extraordinary. He just turns over profit after profit. Excuse me, but the deep end of it, Jeff, come next April, nothing can get done. And if they decide to sell, then they'll sell, and the investors will come in.
Would you be sad if what's, the quintessentially English club sold out to foreign investors? This was your club.
Yeah, there would be a touch of that I would feel disappointed in. And I think the hardcore...
Disappointed or worried?
No, I wouldn't be worried. Arsenal's developed into, people have said it's predominantly French. The owners stay very English, if you like. But I think deep down, yeah, there would be a little concern for me. But I don't think it's going to stop. David Dein and Arsene Wenger had a dream. And the dream is to take Arsenal to the top of football. They have to win the Champions League to become a true great. And that's where their vision is. And I think Arsene Wenger is now building another team. I think he will sign a new contract. And I've got a dream to move this forward. If the old board wants to stay as it is, status quo, then that's fine by them. They don't need the money, Jeff. But there's a chance of bringing in even more money. And another example could be, if Arsenal have another bad season the way they did last season, the value of the company comes right down, and then what happens? The fans will get frustrated, and they'll say, where's the big investment? When are we getting the big players? How often have Arsenal went and found a gem? Always Wenger finds them with his backroom staff. They always find them, but it's getting tougher and tougher and tougher. Liverpool have done it. Man United are finding them for Portugal. all the big clubs are getting it, Arsenal are finding it tougher. That's why investment is good, in my opinion.
Football goes in cycles, Jeff. It goes in cycles, and Arsenal maybe are at that crossroads at the moment. You've got the investments at Liverpool and Manchester United and Chelsea. If they go further away, and I know you're saying they don't need it, well, where don't they need it? Is well, we're all right ourselves. Well, where's the money when it comes to maybe competing with Chelsea, Manchester United and Liverpool? Is paying the 25 millions, they can't do it. And that's why I'm saying it goes in cycles. The players that they've got, maybe they can't just have that edge.
Yeah,
now, dropping... Hold on. No, exactly. No, I agree. No, but that's what I'm saying. Because of cycles, maybe that chance where you've done it and you've picked these gems all the time, that all of a sudden it fails to happen and it comes to everybody. And that's what Charlie's trying to say, is that doesn't happen, then the fans get twitchy. And then the fans start saying, well, where's the investment? I think even as big as Arsenal and what they're saying, they will need that investment to try and move on.
The current board
David Moores did it at Liverpool. He sold out his because he knew they weren't going to be able to compete and stay up there. And so he done it for the right reasons.
And David Dean's doing the same thing, Jeff. And when you hear certain board members at the moment turning around and saying, well, Arsenal's not spent his budget yet, he's got a bit more. They're absolutely spoiled currently because Wenger does that. But come the day where Wenger wanted to go and get Gareth Bale from Southampton, he couldn't do it because he didn't quite have the financial resources. He might have thought it was a wee bit too high, but in the end, he wanted to get him and probably couldn't compete with that type of figure. Now, that's the worry. If Arsene Wenger needs 30 million to turn this young side into a fabulous side, then the 30 million should be made available, and that's where the investors are probably looking to go.
But how concerned, Paul, would you be when you... for instance, this Russian billionaire has come out and said, look, so my aim is to increase my share package as I believe the value will increase. He's talking about money already. I mean, that is their only motivation, isn't it? You know, is the financial side of it.
You could argue that right across the board with several of the clubs in the Premier League, so why would this be any different? I know Arsenal's got fantastic tradition. We feel that we're slowly moving away from all those traditions with what's happening in football.
But what happens when they decide, when the various chairmen get together and decide they want to protect their investments, you know, by, let's say, well, we want to be a Premiership side, let's get rid of relegation for a start. That'll protect our investment as a Premier League side.
Well, I mean, you know, you're taking it, you know, a few steps further on, Jeff. I mean, I don't know that that'll ever be allowed to happen, or whether the Premier League would ever let that happen. I think that would kill the
chairmen are going to be foreigners. They're going to be overseas.
Well, so they would want to, what you're saying is they want to protect their situation. I thought you asked me that question, by the way.
Sorry, mate. Sorry, I was just getting a bit twitchy-watchy, you know. You have to get me going.
No, but what
were you saying, Tom?
It's one of those things, Jeff, where you know, the clubs, what you're saying is that they're all going to want to protect themselves at some stage.
Yeah, well, it's a possibility, that's what I'm saying. It's a possibility that we should be aware of.
That will spoil the product, won't it? Because one of the great things about the Premier League is the relegation battle and all the top 10 or 12 teams that are all in it. Right to the, you know...
Yeah, but let's face it, if there are, you know, X million pounds, 30 million pounds at stake, Jeff, you know, the investors are not going to care one shot about the excitement of the relegation battle.
If the product becomes stale and people switch off to it and people stop going to watch games and, you know, it becomes less popular because of the way it's getting treated, then that will have been a poor move, won't it? They've got to keep it interesting, they've got to keep it fresh, they've got to keep it competitive. It's a shame that football now is dominated so much by money, but it is, and that's the reality of it. It's no good trying to hide from that. And the fact is that it's people from all over the world that are coming into the game. Some love the game more than others. Some are doing it for different reasons than others. But if the fundamental thing is that the product on the pitch is right, and the money's there to keep improving it, then it's always going to carry on happening.
Plus, they'll still have debates. When you have somebody like Platini, who wants to bring in a team who wins the Cup to get a chance at the Champions League, so you're going to have all those debates going about, and whether a Russian comes in and buys Arsenal or the Americans want different things at Liverpool and Manchester United, they are still going to have to wait and see what UEFA come up with. And because of that, Jeff, they'll have to just toe the line. It is a business, there's too much money involved in certain areas of it, but deep down, I don't think sometimes the investment, it's not been bad for Liverpool and it's not been bad for Manchester United.
So your attitude is different, isn't it? Because Steve Gibson says this is not a business, it's